It's a warm welcome to the 10 p.m. news bulletin, and first our top stories. APRC tour caravan enters its political heartlands in the metropolis with a well-attended meeting at the KMC grounds. Revisiting our old memories, we follow the story of pioneers of the University Extension Program 17 years on after that historic convocation in 1999. German and Israeli leaders meet to discuss the bilateral issues with the ongoing conflict in Syria and the general insecurity in the Middle East dominating the talks. And the war of words between Russia and Western powers intensify in the wake of a devastating attack on a hospital in Syria which left dozens of civilians dead. Well, now viewers, these and other stories coming ahead this half hour. I'm your presenter, TENENG GITTEH.
Is responsible. A view shared.
Welcome back. The general public is hereby informed that His Excellency the President of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia, Sheikh Professor Al-Haji Dr. Yahya Ejeje Jammeh Babili Mansa, is pleased to declare Thursday, 18th February 2016 as public holiday throughout the Gambia in observance of the 51st independence anniversary of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia. Members of the ruling APRC Political Bureau, under the leadership of Bala Gaba Jahumpa, on Monday convened a meeting at the Kanifi Municipal Council. The meeting was meant to, among other things, sensitize APRC supporters about preparations for the upcoming presidential elections. Agent Silva has more on that story.
The APRC Bureau's countrywide voter registration tour continued Monday with a mass rally in the Kanifi municipality. KMC, a major stronghold of the ruling party, also prides itself for having its mayor serving as national mobilizer of APRC. The municipality is reported to have nearly 200,000 registered voters in 2011 elections, and more than 100,000 of that number is said to have voted for the APRC. However, those figures do not seem to impress the movers and shakers of politics in the municipality, who have pledged to improve upon the voter performance in the forthcoming elections. The municipality's state of preparedness for this year's election is already high, as they are busy mobilizing every eligible voter secure a voter card to be able to participate in the upcoming presidential elections. Reports indicated that strongholds like TENENG, Serekunda Central and Joswang have already pledged a sum of $10,000 each to voter cards replacements for their people. Hadinyang Jan is the National Assembly member of one of the constituencies that made these pledges. The Joswang member promised to pay for 50 eligible voters in her constituency, while Lamin Kamara and Babuge Sonko also made similar pledges. The mayor of KMC, Yankuba Koli, commended his people for demonstrating a high spirit of loyalty to the APRC party and urged them to keep the momentum. Mayor Koli further went on to call for teamwork and unity among party loyalists, maintaining that the ruling party will never succumb to the opposition in his municipality. The KMC meeting could be described as one of the most successful ones due to the large turnout of youths. The symbolic meeting was also a defining moment for the youth mobilizer Babuge Sonko to further enlighten the youths on their role and expectations ahead of the December polls. The 2016 election, he went on, will be a moment for the youths to prove a point, and KMC, as an important zone to the party, should take the lead role. The National Women Mobilizer Aissatou Jifanga Chaju, analyzing the municipality's results during the 2011 elections, reminded the gathering about the importance of their region to the party, adding that the party relies on the municipality to boost its percentage in the elections. The Transport Minister Balagaba Jahumpa later mounted the podium to deliver his captivating statements to the people of KMC, enumerating series of developments ushered in by the Jammeh administration in the Greater Banjul area. The Minister of Transport, who also doubles as the Secretary General of the party, encouraged supporters and non-supporters of the APRC party to join forces and vote for the ruling party, which he said is a development-oriented party.
KMC Nkol Alia Lonko, APRC, Ala Politico, Banco Dokolem pour Banco Yetanyato, Alla Nying Silo, Westfield Kata for Sukuta, Mem Musai Me Yankuba Koli Highway, Jumale Dada, Jammeji Lanka.
Agent Silva, GRTS.
It was 17 years to the day when the University of the Gambia produced its first graduating class under the name and structure of the University Extension Program. It was a historic moment that closes a chapter in the country's history. On that day, the founder of the university and chancellor described it as the first since God created the Gambia, and that remarkable idea will have impacts greatly on the lives of thousands of young Gambians. Now, legal experts, medical doctors and economists and social scientists have been trained in recent years, but few will forget the pioneers of the university program who made history in 1999. Babka Senghor has their story.
This convocation is historic in that it is the first such event that we held in the Gambia since God created this country.
17 years on, the University of the Gambia has not only produced quality graduates, but also become a center of learning for many a young Gambian and non-Gambians hoping to fulfill a dream. Thousands have made that historic journey, but few will forget the step taken by the pioneers of this once-in-a-lifetime dream for any high school student. It was 7 years ago when I first met the first graduating class of the University Extension Program. They reminisced about the step they took and how much it impacted on their lives and that of their country.
Then the Gambia had very little support coming from outside. And for somebody to say, now, it's better for us to establish a university, the cost that is involved. But you know what, if somebody is determined, there's nothing that can stop you.
The establishment of the University of the Gambia was a turning point for the country. But the inspired decision by President Jammeh was doubted beyond measure.
The UEP came at a time when the country was in dire need of human resource, and the government of the day then saw it that it has to be done. And there was a lot of postponement in the past, and we cannot keep on postponing. And they were so brave to start it, and we were the guinea pigs, and we were happy also to be.
It later turned out to be one visionary idea, and its successes continue to resonate with the objectives of the July 22nd revolution.
Well, I can't recount much about this very day. The reason is I graduated in absentia, I would say. It happened that it coincided with the civil war in Guinea-Bissau, and I was part of that contingent that was deployed to Guinea-Bissau shortly before this graduation day.
It set the tone for the successful delivery of the country's first homegrown university graduates and the emergence of a truly operational university, an institution that will for the next 1.5 decades produce thousands of highly trained individuals who will become very critical in oiling the country's development machinery.
I'm very proud to be among the first 62 Gambians to receive university education at home. It has been the best thing that had ever happened to me. It has been an eye-opener. I can fully remember the day, 16 February 1999, which fell on a Tuesday. It was during that occasion that President Jammeh made a promise to Gambians saying that for education, the sky is the limit. And we've seen that the president has truly proven that with the establishment of the University of the Gambia well before the UEP phased out. We've seen the number of graduates the University of the Gambia has produced over the years.
With its new and diverse facilities and modern teaching centers, the university has added greater scope to its array of educational requirements. It has even added trained legal and medical experts, including the country's first home-trained neurosurgeon. It is further indication of the strides and strong message to silence the doubting Thomases.
The initial days of the university extension program were indeed marred with skepticism as many people questioned its viability. Some called it a floating university. Some called it a political expedient. Some called it a Mickey Mouse, and yet others called it Jangi Jolof.
For GRTS News, this is Babukar Senghor.
PAC of the National Assembly Monday received the 2014 Activity and Financial Report of the Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency GIPA and the Gambia Public Printing and Publishing Corporations GPPC, respectively. The two institutions, as Ibrahim Jallo reports, made their first presentations of the documents to be observed by the PAC body.
The Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency GIPA was the first to appear before the Public Accounts and Public Enterprises Committee of the National Assembly, tabling its 2014 Activity Financial Report to be assessed by the National Assembly. Presenting the report, the Chief Executive Officer of GIPA, Fad Menga Jallo, said the institution has gone a long way in its drive to promoting investment and rendering support to small and medium-sized enterprises in the country. She, however, acknowledged that inadequate finance and human resources and the lack of access to finance to support emerging businesses are among the key challenges hindering GIPA's operation.
In terms of human and financial resources, again, institutions like GIPA in most countries are in 3 or 2 separate agencies, whilst it might be most cost-effective and rational to have it as per the current structure. GIPA must have the human and financial resources to deliver.
CEO Jallo, while expressing our institution's readiness to making the Gambia an investment hub in its future plans of action, saw the need to invest in packaging and agro-processing, calling for government's direct intervention in this sector.
The element we also discussed was in terms of meaningful investment in quality assurance infrastructure, that packaging, like packaging and labeling, continues to be a major challenge, especially for agro-processing. We will continue our efforts to attract meaningful private investments in these areas and other sectors, but we still believe that the government should directly invest in this, including looking at the option of PPP, outsource the management of such a facility, and eventually divest its stakes to the private sector.
GIPA's consulted auditors also reviewed its suggestions and recommendations on the institution's operation during the period under review. Shortly after that session, attention shifted to the presentation of auditor's report and financial statement of the Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporations, GPPC. The corporation's managing director, Mamadou Cisse, led the presentation. He said although the institution has recorded significant progress over the years, it needs modern printing machines to ease its work. GPPC's financial director, Babukar Mane, dilated on the company's financial performance as captured in the auditor's report.
The financial performance of the corporation in 2014 financial year registered a total turnover of $40,152,907 as compared to $34,131,324 in 2013. This represents a total increase of $5,999,002, a percentage increase of 18%. The gross profit for the year has also increased from $22,986,003 in the year 2013 to $27,008,953 in year 2014.
After satisfactorily listening to both GIPA and GPPC presentations, both institutions were asked to return to the Assembly on Tuesday for scrutiny. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
The economic crime case involving the former Works Minister and Gambian ambassador to France, Ousmane Badji, is ongoing at the Banjul High Court. As we hear in this report by Famara Kanyi, the accused person was under cross-examination by the State Council.
I have been in Paris as the ambassador for 2 years. The former Works Minister Ousmane Badji told the court whilst under cross-examination by the State Counsel A.M. Yusuf. Faisal Bojang, whose name is widely mentioned in the case, was the then financial attaché to the Gambian embassy in France for only 4 months. According to the accused person, Ousmane Badji, the embassy's account prior to his coming was under one Mr. GITTEH as the signatory. He told the court that after making several queries about the abnormality of the situation in the embassy, Ms. Adele Sok was sent in as the deputy head of mission and the signatory to the embassy's account, as well as the head of the chancery. Badi informed the court that the only time he became a signatory to the account was when Faisal Bojang committed the crime. When asked by the State Council A.M. Yusuf the number of home-based staff in the embassy, Badi replied that it was 4. According to him, Adele Sok was holding the position of deputy head of mission, as well the head of chancery. Other positions he went on were the financial attaché and the councillor in charge of UNESCO matters. At this juncture, the case was adjourned by Justice Abbey for continuation of cross-examination tomorrow, 17 February 2016. For GRTS News, I am Famarakani.
The chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission has been updating the media on the ongoing supplementary voter registration, which began in mid-January. The press briefing also provided the IEC chairman the opportunity to hammer home some vital information regarding the upcoming electoral cycle. Fatimata Simaha tells us more.
The chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Alhaji Mustafa El Kereyon, has stressed the need for voter registration as a crucial part of the election process, noting that it is only through registration that one can acquire a voter card to be eligible for elections. Kereyon made these pronouncements during a press briefing with journalists at his office in Bakau.
The IEC is on course with this electoral calendar. The supplementary registration of voters started as scheduled, and it is progressing successfully. The IEC has not yet encountered any major issue in the conduct of this national electoral activity. 170 registration staff are recruited, trained, and deployed to the field. Of these, 20 are senior registration officers, 50 supervisors, and 100 registration clerks. There are 50 teams made up of 1 supervisor, 1 registration clerk, and an operator.
Kereyon made clarifications on payments due for voter card replacement, saying that this process affects only those who lost their voter's card. He was quick to add that those who turned 18 after 2011 elections or were out of the country during the previous voting will be provided with voter registration card at no cost. The IEC chief warned against double registration, which incurred a severe penalty of up to 2 years imprisonment or a fine of $25,000.
I hereby remind all Gambians that the sole purpose of the voter's card is for voting at elections and not for any other use. Therefore, I appeal to all institutions and organizations to disallow the use of the voter's card in their transactions. The provisional number of replacements at the end of the 4th week is as follows. Banjul, 239 voters' cards. Kanifing, 1,268 voters' cards. Birkama, 1,795 voters' cards. Kerewan, 828 voters' cards. Mansa Congo, 307 voters' cards. Janjambure, 503 voters' cards. Basse, 307 voters' cards. The total provisional number of replacement at the end of the 4th week is 5,246 voters' cards.
The IEC chairman informed the general public that the upcoming presidential election will be on Thursday, 1st December 2016, while the National Assembly election will be on the 6th of April and the local government elections is on the 12th of April 2018.
Let me seize this opportunity to inform all, particularly political parties, that any political party that fails to regularize its status by not providing the IEC an updated list of its party executive members, the opening of regional office in each administrative region will be deregistered come 31st March 2016. To conclude, I wish to thank the government of the Gambia through the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs for entirely funding this supplementary voters registration. To Electoral Service International, ESI, suppliers of the electronic registration materials, thank you for the business relation. To the development partners, I call on you to come forward meaningfully and substantially support the electoral process.
Section 12B of the Election Act entitles a citizen to have his or her name entered on a register of voters in a constituency to enable them exercise their fundamental rights of choosing their political representative in the coming elections. Fatoumata Simaha, GRTS.
The Ministry of Interior wishes to inform all private security guard companies to process their company's license for the year 2016 as stipulated in Section 5, Subsection B of the Private Security Guard Companies Act 2011. Amid a release from the Interior Ministry states that the deadline for this process is on the 15th of March 2016. All are urged to comply with this date, failure to do which could result to the closure of the affected company. The requirements for renewal of license for this year are as follows. 1. A license fee of $50,000 paid to the Gambia Revenue Authority and a receipt presented at the Ministry of Interior for attestation. 2. GRA clearance. 3. Social Security clearance. 4. A clearance receipt from KMC and being the payment of trade license. And 5. Business registration certificate from Justice. And 6. List of all guards and their payroll. We count on your usual cooperation. The release ends. Well, now you're watching GRTS News and it's time now for our first break. We'll be right back with news from outside the Gambia. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has held talks with Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu in Berlin. Things on the agenda included talks on difficult issues like the Syria crisis and security in the Middle East. There were differences, but Prime Minister Angela Merkel, German Chancellor, ended by focusing on their country's common grounds.
Israeli intergovernmental consultations always tend to be delicate, and not just due to security precautions. They're taking place for the 6th time. Common ground between German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is considered to be meager at best. After a past meeting, Merkel announced she and Netanyahu had agreed to disagree. But much has changed in the past year. The war in Syria, Islamic terror, and the refugee crisis have moved to the foreground. Now Israel has become a center of stability.
In the midst of this terrific storm, in the midst of this global turbulence, there is one country in the Middle East that maintains not only an advanced society, a democratic society, an innovative society, but a society that maintains the very values that you here in Europe and you in Germany hold dear.
Israel's message is clear. You need us. And Netanyahu is using this position of strength to express his resentment over Germany's burgeoning relationship to Iran. The lifting of sanctions against Iran and the recent visits of German cabinet members irritated Israel. Chancellor Merkel attempted to appease. It is understandable that there cannot be normal, friendly ties to Iran as long as Israel's right to exist is not recognized. This is mentioned in every discussion with Iran by the German government, and I would clearly state this myself. What is striking about this year's intergovernmental consultations, the topics that usually dominate were barely touched upon. Israel's conflict with the Palestinians, for example. According to Merkel, right now is not the best time to discuss that problem. The German is...
Turkey has called on its allies, including the United States, to intervene on the ground in Syria, days after Ankara blamed Russia for escalating the country's civil war. A series of bombings on civilian targets, including hospitals, has been condemned by the international community. Moscow has denied its air force being responsible for attacks that could constitute war crimes.
Cluster bombs in Aleppo. Syrian rebels say a Russian warplane carried out these latest attacks, claims that have yet to be independently verified. Airstrikes claimed the lives of dozens of civilians on Monday, hitting 5 hospitals and 2 schools in the provinces of Aleppo and Idlib. Human rights groups are blaming Russia. So too is Turkey. The Syrian regime asked for help from their big brother Russia, who has massacred Turks and Kurds in eastern Turkey. They said, "We can't win it, so you come and finish this massacre." Russia rejects the claims and says the United States is responsible, a view shared by the Syrian ambassador in Moscow. The hospital was destroyed by the US Air Force. The Russian military had nothing to do with it. Our intelligence confirms that. Washington has condemned the latest airstrikes in Syria and appealed to all parties to cease hostilities. Syria's President Bashar al-Assad downplayed any chances of that. They want a truce? Good. But who can fulfill all of the conditions and requirements within a week? The fronts are hardening in Syria. Turkey now says it will follow Saudi Arabia in committing ground troops as long as other countries do the same. The chances of a sustainable ceasefire are looking increasingly remote.
You're watching GRTS News, and we'll take our second break. When we return, we take a look at the weather. Welcome back, and we'll now join the Weather Forecast Office for an update of the weather.
Wonderful landscape, full of baobab trees. Like its Cape Point in Bakau, it is one of the most exotic sceneries in the world. The baobab tree is a symbol of resilience, wisdom, and resourcefulness. For the baobab tree provides good food in times of hunger, rents its bark for medications, and its sap for glue. In the Gambia, there is a company like the baobab tree, 100% African and purely Gambian in all aspects, in know-how, design, value, capital, and management. That company is Elton. Elton, employing hundreds of Gambians and proudly associating itself with development in the Gambia. Elton, side by side with the Gambia.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the weather forecast. It has been hazy and sunny during the past 24 hours. And for the satellite image shows convective cloud over the south and central part of Africa, while high clouds over part of Gulf of Guinea and the Sahel. Tonight, the Gambia will be cool, hazy, and occasionally breezy. Similar conditions are expected to prevail tomorrow morning thereafter, becoming sunny and warm in the afternoon. Surface winds will mainly be northeasterlies in direction, and the speed will vary between 15 and 35 kilometers per hour. Minimum temperatures across the country will be 18 degrees over the Greater Banjul, 17 over West Coast, while 16 over North Bank, Lower River and Central River region, and Upper River record 14 degrees Celsius. And for the maximum temperatures will be 34 degrees over the Greater Banjul, while the rest will either be 37 or 38 degrees Celsius warm. Low tide will be 0.5 meters at 11 a.m. High tide will be 1.4 meters at 5 a.m. and 1.5 meters at 6 p.m. Wave will be 2 to 3 meters northeasterly swells. The sun will rise at 28 minutes after 7 in the morning and set at 11 minutes after 7 in the evening. That was the forecast, and good night.
Well, looks like a beautiful day ahead. And now, viewers, with that, we come to the end of this newscast. But before we take leave of you, a quick reminder of our day's main stories. APRC tour caravan has entered its political heartland in the metropolis with a well-attended meeting at the KMC grounds. Revisiting old memories, we are following the story of the pioneers of the University Extension Program 17 years on after the historic convocation in 1999. German and Israeli leaders have met to discuss bilateral issues with the ongoing conflict in Syria and the general insecurity in the Middle East dominating the talks. And the war of words between Russia and Western powers has intensified in the wake of a devastating attack on a hospital in Syria which left dozens of civilians dead. Well, now, viewers, that was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do stay with us. I'm your presenter, TENENG GITTEH. Have a pleasant night.
Blaming Russia. So